Jai Guruji, Shukrana Guruji, Namaste Guruji. Uh, Thanks, Suresh Uncle and Multilingual Platform for giving me this opportunity to read this divine Granth, which was manifested by Guru Maharaj himself. So, Sankaji, today we'll be reading chapter when the Divine Father blessed us with sons. It's from page number 16 to 26. It was in the last week of June 1998 that I had the good fortunate of having Guruji's darshan. My maternal uncle had been telling us about Guruji and the miraculous cure of his heart problem. My uncle had been advised to go for an urgent bypass surgery by his cardiologist. Preparing himself mentally for the surgery, he had gone to Guruji for his blessings. Guruji had ordered him to sit near him and press his feet. Guruji then inquired about his health. Uncle told him and then sought Guruji's permission to leave and his blessings for the imminent surgery. Guruji told him that he need not go for surgery, saying, I have already done your bypass. It was hard to believe even for the devout disciple like him, but he was happy that Guruji had blessed him. Next morning, Uncle went for his pre-admission test. The test revealed that the heart was functioning perfectly. His cardiologist, however, attributed the good reports to the test having been done just after the pattern had slept well. He directed Uncle to get the test redone at a different laboratory. Again, the results were same. The doctors were stunned. Uncle related the night's happening at Guruji's to the doctor. The doctors was felt speechless and could not but wonder at Guruji's divine intervention. Even though I knew of Guruji's grace, I could not receive his darshan because I was posted at Srinagar and came to Delhi only on short visits for official work. Fortunately, the next time I visited Delhi, Uncle conveyed the good news that Guruji was in Delhi and we could go to meet him. We went to the Empire State Sthan of Guruji the same evening. It was quite late by the time we reached there. The last round of langar was on and Guruji had gone to his room for a while. We were asked to sit him for the langar and were with the sangat while Guruji walked him out of the room. The first darshan of Guruji walking gracefully through unassumingly into the hall, dressed in a black kurta, is still fresh in my mind. He recognized my uncle, observed us, first timers there, came to us. He asked Uncle to introduce us and then gave us chutti leave after telling us to leave to the ranch, the farmhouse of Gurgaon Maroli Road, on his birthday. First day and testing times. As luck would have it, the next day when I went to join my Delhi office, I was told to go back to Srinagar on temporary duty as the new in charge has faltered on service. A customer has complained to the regional office. I returned to Srinagar unhappy at the prospect of not being able to get Guruji's darshan on his birthday, but confident of meeting with success in my official duty as I had received darshan and received blessings. I knew everything would go as Guruji wanted it to be. I went to the official duties of Srinagar and Avantipur under tough conditions, remembering Guruji in every adverse moment. The custom was more demanding than ever before and he used to push us around, attempting to substantiate his complaint. I could have failed at occasions like this in the past, but this time it was different. There was an anchor I was holding on to and remembering him during every rough hour. Finally, after a month, the customer called him to his office and in front of me made a call to our regional office, telling them of an excellent service being received. He told them to ignore the complaint. An appreciation letter was handed over to me. I knew who was doing all this. I returned to Delhi looking forward to Guruji's darshan. My family had gone to Guruji's birthday celebration and had been regularly going to Empire State. They told me of the many thousands of devotees who had came to Guruji's birthday and of experiences the Sangat had shared with him. I thought, but would he bless us with a child? We had been childless for 7 years. Medical treatments, prayers and prayers, remedies, upayas and remedies were failed. My uncle had suggested we see Guruji's blessing. We had also returned the experience of a contractor friend of his. You will get children, run away. The contractor had been childless for 16 years. When he got Guruji's blessings, Guruji has told him, Puttar vi dette, dhi vi ditti, और इसी साल I give you both son and a daughter too, that too in this very year. This was unbelievable, but true to Guruji's word, the contractor's wife gave birth to triplets, 2 sons and 1 daughter, on 31st December of that year. Everything is possible with Guruji's blessings, but whether and when he will be blessed, he will bless us. I wondered. We continuing visited Guruji regularly, but we never talked to us. The Sangha told us to have faith in Guruji. He will talk to you at an appropriate time. Do not go to him on your own to mention your problem, they advised us. One day, when we were sitting at this Sangat after the langar, Guruji gestures me to come to him. Was he indeed calling me? Yes, it was me, the Sangat assured me. I walked up to Guruji, thousands of thoughts in my mind, but with no courage to speak. Aithe kyun aaya hai? Why have you come here? He asked me. I mustered just enough courage to mutter, Guruji, I have no children. Guruji says detachedly, you will get children. Run away from here. Guruji, without thinking, I muttered, Guruji, I have not come to run away. Guruji looked at me and said, okay, then keep coming every 8th day. This was something that surprised me no end. I wondered how Guruji knew that it was convenient for me to come only every 8th day. At that time, I was working in shifts with every 8th rotation day. 2 morning shifts, 2 afternoon shifts, 2 night shifts, and then 2 off day. With only the evenings of the first off day being convenient for attending satsang. We started going for Guruji's darshan every 8th day. The member of the satsang, Sangat, who had been blessed by Guruji, used to narrate his experiences. This gave us hope that our desires would also be fulfilled, thanks to Guruji. But when we used to ask ourselves, also things were improving. My wife's job became permanent in November 1998. She took Guruji's blessings before her job interview and was the only one selected from among 42 candidates. Our finances were also getting better. My wife and I were continuing to get treatment for infertility without much success. The doctor had suggested a few attempts on intrauterine insemination. Although she was not hopeful it would work for us, she had stated that this was followed by attempts into in vitro fertilization, IVF, an expensive procedure. At the same time, I received a message from my company that I have been shortlisted for an entrance exam to execute MBA program. The duration of the program, beginning June 2000, was to be for a year. I was in two minds. My wife was vehemently and vocally against appearing for the exam. I asked her to leave the decision to Guruji. She stated, what if he says yes? The treatment will stop for a year. Still, on our next visit, I gathered courage to go up to Guruji and ask him whether I should go for the exam. Guruji responded saying, such chances only comes in lifetime. You should go for it. I told my life of Guruji's decision. She was unhappy. I appeared for the exam. Before the list of the selected candidates were circulated, several rumor lists were doing the rounds. My name was not there in any of the rumors list. I told my wife about it. She was relieved. Meanwhile, doctors decided to make a last IUI attempt on 2nd of June 2000. She stated that she was not helpful and would want us to go for an IVF after this attempt. I informed my office that I would be coming late on that day. After sample collection and initial checkup, I had to go to the repeat sample. I called up my office and conveyed that I would be further late and I may not come in at all. I was instructed to make it to the office however late I may get. I gave a repeat call and after arranging for my wife's return home, left for my office. There I was told of my selection for the executive MBA exam. Acceptance for joining the course was to be given within next 3 days. Next day, we went to Guruji's darshan. I broke the news of my selection to the MBA program to Guruji. My illusion, as if anybody can even break news to omniscient. He smiled and said, "Fir te kalyan ho gaya? You have been blessed then. I thought I have told Guruji about my selection." And he's saying that I've been blessed with happiness. But this is obvious. What Guruji meant was not apparent to us. We were to discover that in few days. I joined the institute at Gurgaon for the program. After the first module, I went back home. We went for darshan that evening. While returning, my wife asked me to buy a pregnancy test kit. And the meaning of Guruji's statement became obvious to us next morning when my wife tested positive for pregnancy. The last attempt at IUI under tough circumstances had turned out to be successful, thanks to Guruji. Both of us were overwhelmed with joy and gratitude. We were in tears and were repeatedly kissing Guruji's photograph for a long, long time. We went to Guruji that evening. I touched his feet and was about to speak, once again trying to break the news to the omniscient, and he motivated me to keep quiet. I know, he said. My wife went through her pregnancy quite comfortably in spite of my absence. She was able to get to a house in a college campus during the phase, which helped her to do away with much of the traveling. She gave birth to a boy on 31st January 2001. After completion of baby's first 40 days, he took the infants to Guruji for his blessing. That day, at the time of giving us leave, Guruji asked my wife, Poonam Aunty, और मुंडा लेना है? Do you want another child? She was taken by surprise and did not answer. Guruji repeated this question to my wife on every visit we made. She never answered but kept wondering during our drives back that how she would go through the medical procedure once again, and with such small child to take care of. She said Guruji must be joking. After completion of my MBA in June 2001, I got transfer orders to Rajband, a place close to Durgapur in West Bengal. It was not possible for me to move at that time, considering the young child and the responsibility of Delhi. I pleaded with my company seniors, but no one was prepared to help. Disheartened by the apathy of my seniors, I was considering moving to a new posting without my family. But after making arrangements in Delhi for their stay, we went for Guruji's darshan on the evening. That day, the last day of the seniors, I'd been requested, had said no to me. That day too, Guruji asked the same question to my wife. Poonam Aunty, और मुंडा लेना है? She promptly said, how will I get another son if my husband is going on a posting? Guruji smiled and said, this is really a technical problem. Let me cancel his transfer. We touched his feet and went back home. 2 days later, one of my senior officers called me and said, you have been taking off your inability to move. Why don't you write a request out and fax it to me? I will see what I can do about it. I knew who had put that thought in the mind. I continued to Delhi for another 2 years after that, rejoining the office on Guruji's birthday, 7th July 2001. Guruji continued to put the same question on my wife one evening in April 2002. She said, as you please. The pregnancy test then the next day was positive. This time it had happened without any medical procedure. During the course of this pregnancy, my wife was mentioned to me that she wanted a daughter this time and would ask Guruji for the same. On our next visit, she was about to make a request to Guruji while touching his feet. He spoke first. First time a son, next time also a son. She had her answer. And of course, another son was born on 1st December 2002. Guruji questioned the second son, Ishuk. After the birth of a second child, Guruji once asked my wife whether she was planning to pursue PhD. She replied that it was too difficult for her to manage studies with 2 children. Guruji repeated the suggested to her, adding, do you know PhD? Pagal hone ka dar, fear of turning insane. Again, the reason behind this suggestion was obvious to us. Much later, when I was transferred to Mumbai, the only way my wife would have joined me on taking leave was for doing a PhD. On getting my transfer orders, I went back to see Guruji's blessing and told him about my transfer. He told me to go ahead. I spent 1 year in Mumbai without my family. During this phase, we visited Guruji a few times. During one of the visits, Guruji told me, you take your family along or else I will give you one more son. We took the hint and my wife applied for PhD registration, which happened against all the odds in a record short time. Thanks to Guruji. As a result, my family could join me in Mumbai. This would not be out of place to mention here that one of my father's friends, an accomplished astrologer, had told me when we did not had any child that I would get my first child only after the age of 41. He had also predicted that I would have son, that too only after two daughters. This astrologer has hardly ever been wrong. When I asked him after Guruji's blessed his children, the first one when I was 37 and the second one I was 39, how this prediction has gone failed, he replied that astrology can tell you how your destiny has been decided by God. But a Mahapurush like Guruji, who is God personified, he continued, has the power to rewrite your destiny. So there is no doubt that one who has the power to rewrite your destiny is God himself. Accidents averted on road and tarmac. In September 1999, I had gone to Shimla with my wife, driving my car. I have never been a good driver thanks to my habit of daydreaming. While we were returning to Shimla, we had a stopover at Chandigarh. The next morning, we started later than planned, and that we were hearing loudly on my mind, prompting me to drive faster than usual. We ran into traffic jam between Ambala and Karnal. Our car was behind an earth mover, and there were several cars behind us. I was anxious to go ahead, but unable to do so, as only one side of the road was operative, and the broad body's earth mover was blocking the views of the traffic coming the other way. My wife was sitting beside me, her closed eyes, listening to Shabads on her Walkman. The earth mover was traveling at a very low pace. My patience gave away, and I sped the car to the right side of the earth mover, intending to overtake it. Just as the car came parallel to the earth mover and I sighted the traffic coming from the other side, I saw another earth mover racing towards us. It was only a few meters away, with just a few inches between the two earth movers. The idea of the car being torn apart by an approaching earth mover, which brakes very slowly, and the noise of the crews of the both earth movers shouting at me sent a chill down on spine. My wife opened her eyes and looked at me, and both of us could not do anything but remember Guruji. Suddenly, I saw a gap on the divider on our right and swerved the car through on the non-operational side of the road. Who else but Guruji could have saved us from like that? February 2000. While I was on the duty at the airport, passing on the night shift through the morning shift, I went for supervising the refueling of Boeing 707. I found that the ground technician was working on the engine with its flap open, and our refueling staff was waiting for him to come and get the refueling started. I went to the technician, who said there's a lot of work to be done and he is single-handedly attending on the kite crafts. Even the securing arm of the engine flap was not working, and he had to make it rest on the step ladder while working on the engine. I heard him out and requested he that he get the refueling started and then attending to his work. He started me to go to the refueler and that he should follow soon. Just as I turned to go, he shifted his stance on the step ladder, and flap of the engine dropped from the rest of it away and started falling down. I caught a glimpse of the flap approaching me with a great speed, and I remembered Guruji. The flap struck my forehead, and the blood oozed out. I was conscious and was driven at the airport doctor. He looked at the wound and said, "God has saved you. A centimeter up or a centimeter down, an injury could have been fatal." This time too, I knew the Guruji who has saved me. Saved in flooded Mumbai. One of the days of the Mumbai floods, 26 July 2005, I was in office. Some of the employees left early, knowing the train services will be disrupted. I went through my office work and came out at the usual time. By then, the employees who had left early to catch the trains had started returning to the office as service had came to halt. I had computed that day on my car and was in mind, should I stay to put or try to reach home? One of my colleagues came to me and said that his son was stuck in the school, which was our way to the home. Then I decided for me. I remembered Guruji and headed for it. With a stopover planned at the school of my colleague's son, as we tried to leave office, one of the gates were already submerged into the car, had broken it down in front of it. We went out through the other gate. The road was underwater and it was difficult to go through, braving the water and the jam. reached the school of my colleague's son in about 2 hours. As the buses were not plying, the school had made arrangements for the overnight stay of the students at the school. We learned. Many colleagues had, since his son was comfortable with his classmate and our ability to reach home was doubtful, we had decided to let the children be stay only at the school for that night. We decided to continue trying reaching to home. As we moved, we found that the water had come to a height that it was not possible to drive through or return to the office. I decided to park the car at the high point where I had parked it when my colleague had gone to his son's school and called him to say that I would not be coming home. We slept in the car, and next day I drove car back home slowly as the water kept receding. On reaching home in the evening, I found that all the cars parked in the residential complex had been submerged and required major repairs amounting to tens of thousands of rupees per car. The same has happened to the cars parked at the office. The media spoke of the people who had slept in the car on the road getting killed because the water level rose, trapping the occupants who were unable to pull down window panes or open the doors. But no harm had come to me, and neither had my car been damaged, all because of one of whom I remembered just before leaving office. Only Guruji's Kripa could have saved me that night, and it did. His grace continues after Mahasamadhi. In February 2007, on a visit to Delhi, I went to have Guruji's darshan. As I was about to bow before him before making his leave, Guruji said, "Tu Delhi वापस आ गया है? Have you come back to Delhi?" I replied, "नहीं Guruji, हालत है मुंबई यहाँ." "Oh, I am still in Mumbai." Guruji pointed to another person and said that he was talking about that man. But this was indication enough for me. Now, having some sense of how disciples' wishes were granted and that how I would get my long-awaited transfers to Delhi. I got my transfer back to Delhi in the end of March 2007. I joined Delhi office in a month and moved my family to Delhi on 26th May 2007. We were fortunate enough to have Guruji's darshan in Delhi. On 31st May 2007, when I came to know about Guruji's decision to leave the body, I was shattered. Returning from Bade Mandir, I kept on my thinking on innumerable occasions that when Guruji has blessed us with all that on our due, that we are not even worthy. What will happen now? Who will take care of us? These questions crossed my mind, and I did not have the answer. However, the one who had always answered our demands, doubts, and prayers, and had the answers to these questions. I was to learn this in the few days. I had been participating in an intercorporate business stimulation competition with my team in 2005 and 2006. For 2007, the regional preliminary round was slated for 1st and 2nd June in Delhi. But after Guruji's Mahasamadhi, I felt I could not continue. I called up my teammates and told them that I was a much weaker person now and that I should not be rely on me. One of them consoled me, saying that the Guru does not even desert a disciple, even after leaving his own body. I, however, did not believe him because I was grief-struck. Our team somehow managed to get through the initial 4 rounds at the regional preliminaries. In the final round, we took risky decisions so that we could continue to have a slot at the regional finals. The result came and we were told that we have not qualified. I pulled up Guruji's photo from my pocket and said, "This is what it is expected to happen." आप गुरुजी ही कहते हुए आप कुछ और थे. When you were around, it was different. As I was looking at the Guruji's smiling face in the photographs, my teammate who was checking the results said, "They have not fed our decisions correct in the computer." We went to the organization and told them the mistake. After corrections were made, we were found to have qualified for the regionals. After that, our team did not look back and stood second in finals, national finals, on June 6, 2007, and subsequently second on the Asia Pacific region finals in September 2007. Guruji had thus told us in no uncertain terms that he and his grace are still with the Sangat. On the personal front, I was worried about getting admission for our son in a good school. We tried to gain access for our sons through different contacts, but no avail. Ultimately, I remembered Guruji and asked him, "When you have given us these two sons, why don't you get their admission in the good school?" The questions were answered faster than it was asked. Children got admissions in a top school in Delhi without any donation or black political influence. When we had arrived in Delhi, we did not have a place from where my wife and I could attend my jobs and also look after our children's age 6 and 4. The only way out was that my wife to get a flat within her college, but none of the residents were close to the retirement and there were several lecturers seniors to her. The flat was allotted as per the seniority of the applicants. This time too the miracle we needed occurred. A resident vacated a flat as his son found it inconvenient to travel to far off school. Strangely, none of the senior lecturers to my wife applied for that flat. Who else but Guruji can make miracles happen? And when they suit the desires and the demands of any member of the Sangat. I have summarized my experience with Guruji, my God. I close this my heartfelt gratitude and reverence to him. Om Shri Guru Devaya Namaha. May Guruji continue to shower us and all his disciples with his good fortunate and good sense, and may we always remain worthy of being his disciples. Jai Guruji. Satsang of Akash Sethi, Senior Manager, Training and Development, Indian Oil Corporation. Shukrana Malik, lakh shukrana. Heartiest gratitude to you, Guru Maharaj, for giving this opportunity. Jai Guruji, Shukrana Guruji.